Salut everyone, Airmax here. In this video, we're going to be covering MX Linux. And you're going to be asking like, why the heck is Airmax reviewing MX Linux? Well, we're going to get into that too. Let's do this. As always, let's start with a little bit of context. A lot of you guys have been asking me to review MX Linux when it comes to gaming, but also when it comes to content creation. And I was really not willing to go in that route because just looking at their website and really the distro they propose, I could tell right away that MX Linux might not be the best choice when it comes to like gaming, and I would say more like competitive gaming and content creation. So you're gonna be like, what, Airmax? Like, are you gonna gatekeep distribution which have you know, a little bit like different vision versus like the pure gaming distro? So obviously, like I was like, no, like let's get into it. Like let's try to be objective and try to understand what this distribution is really all about. Another like really important point I want to mention is that MX Linux on paper is the #1 distro on a website called distrowatch.com. So if you don't know distrowatch.com, I believe is one of the most famous distro ranking place on the internet. And the way the ranking works, I don't really know actually how it works, but I guess it's based on click and on vote and review. Like there is some type of mechanism going there, and this won't be the purpose of this video. But MX Linux has been in the top 1 for months, if it's not years. Like, this has been constantly like the #1 distro on distrowatch.com. And you know, I have a big focus on gaming and content creation with all my video, but also I have a focus for all the newcomers. People who are just tired of Windows or even like Mac OS, and they want to try Linux. And what kind of like really like pushed me to try this distro is the fact that because they are #1, it could be also like a big argument for all the new like users out there to find their distro. And I wanted to see if this distro could have been a good distro for beginners. Because I do believe that a lot of users are going to switch from Windows to Linux in the coming months, in the coming years. There is a switch happening already. But, you know, like when you are switching from something to something else, the first thing you do is actually document yourself. And DistroWatch is kind of like the window shopper of the distro ranking for anything related to Linux. So I'm like, guys, if you are #1, you better be capable of justify your spot. Because all those newcomers, they're going to go on DistroWatch and they're going to be like, whoa, MX Linux is #1? It should be great. Okay? So that's the main 2 reasons I wanted to start reviewing this distro. So I made a full stream. I'm going to put the comment in the description below if you want to see like the 4 hours review in detail. I'm also made a short video where I was analyzing the review of MX Linux on DistroWatch. And again, I was just talking about the reviews written by users of MX Linux. I was not talking about MX Linux. I want to make that clear. If you watched the video before, I have no intention to diss the work of the dev of this distro because I can tell there is a lot of work. So you get the idea. Let's get into a quick presentation of what it is. So MX Linux is based on Debian. It's a distro which I would call like a little bit old school. Like it has like kind of like the Windows 7 vibe. Like to give you an idea, it runs pretty well. We'll go more into that, but it's really like not a rolling edge distro oriented towards performance or like, you know, like gaming or this type of thing. It's more like a stable distro based on Debian with a lot of customization when it comes to theming, but also when it comes to application. The distro comes basically with 3 different desktop environments. The first one is XFCE, second one is KDE, and the third one is called Fluxbox. So I don't know if it's a Windows manager or desktop environment. You tell me in the comment below. I didn't do my research on that. The one I really focused on was the main one, like what they call like the star one, the XFCE one. And yes, so let's get into the pros there and try to understand why this distro is actually so famous. So the first thing I want to mention is the fact that the distro installed pretty well. They have their own installer, which is totally different from anything I experienced so far. And I have to say it does the job. When it comes to complexity of the installation process, how much you can do, it is okay-ish. I don't think you can go really deep into like every type of option compared to other distro, but I would say it gets the job done, and this is a good point. So installation, nice. So just to mention, like no problem with writing any type of bootloader of any other like partition you will have on your hard drive. It went smooth. Any problem related to the driver, and we'll talk about it after. Like the installation is, I would say, like solid. Not the best, but solid. Now, I do believe the second big point that kind of like attract new user and also old user toward MX Linux is the tool they provide. So they have those tools called MX Tools. Yeah, I know, not original, but they provide them. And those tools, I have to say, they are pretty neat. I won't go through all of them, but what they basically do, they avoid the user to even have to touch the terminal once in his life. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, if you're on MX Linux, you could go through all the GUI and roll through them. Is it gonna make your experience easier? We'll talk about it after, but it's a debate. What I would say, though, is like, the applications, they look good. I had the feeling like some of them, they were kind of looking at the application I've seen on Garuda, for example. So I don't really know, you know, which one was first or not first, if like it's a common tool somewhere. But the distro is packaged with those tools, and they are branded MX Tools. So I guess this is why some of the users will be really into MX Linux in general, because you don't really have to learn anything around Linux. You just go through those tools, you see what you need to be done, and you go through the GUI, press OK, and you're good to go. So I guess it's a pro there. Now the third point, which I do believe is also really important, this distro is based on Debian. And with Debian, you have access to the NVIDIA driver. If you install Debian by hand, you're gonna have to do a lot of like terminal, you're gonna have to go through a lot of process to install it. Honestly, it's not hard if you know how to read the wiki. But here they have a little application where you just double click and it launch a script which is going to install the NVIDIA driver via the terminal. And to be fair, it's a really good script. I had no issue. The drivers are a little bit old, but that's okay. They will do the job for the purpose of the distro, which is, in my opinion, non-competitive gaming. Like, let's be clear. But for like, you know, light gaming and browsing and stuff, your hardware is going to work, no problem. And now the fourth point, which I think is super important, and it's not pushed enough on their website or anything, is their repository accessibility. So you have access to a lot of application. I do believe like they should put it a little bit more like in advance because everything is configured out of the box. And they have one of those like, you know, GUI application where you can like selection the packages you want to install from Debian stable. Then they have another like little window where you can choose from the backport from Debian, which is great. We did upgrade the kernel there. It was actually pretty fun, but more about it after that. And they also have like Flatpak and FlatHub ready to go. So again, like for all the pros and cons, like the pros themselves are already around the fact that you are going to have a really like smooth experience without having to touch the terminal. I think this is a big sell for this distro. Like that's what it is. You go through their environment, click on their little application, yes, no, and boom, you're good to go. So on this, good. So let's talk about the negative. The first one I want to mention, and you know, it's totally objective. I get that some users are gonna love the look of the way they theme this distro, but I would say like the theming is really subpar in my opinion. Okay, like it's really bad, and it's not bad in a way like it look bad. I think it's okay. I think it's bad in a way like it's too much. We are so far from XFCE that some of the application, even like some of the application, like they're struggling. When I say they're struggling, I have an example on my stream where I was trying to resize a window of Mozilla Firefox. I couldn't do it. So the way apparently to do it was to do Alt and right click just for this specific window. And it was kind of a subject of a debate during the stream, but also in the video I made where I kind of like show what was going on there because I laughed really hard. Like I was laughing so bad. But anyways, like you can see that the over-theming kind of like impact the usability of the distro. And to me, that's the problem. The look, I don't like it, let's be clear. But the fact that on top of that, it's kind of like making the basic stuff, which is like resizing a window, hello, impossible, is just not tolerable. So this, it's a big negative for me. I hope it was just a bug and they're gonna fix it in the future, but no. Now, the second point I want to mention in the negative is related to their documentation. In their documentation, you know, I told you guys, it gave a vibe from, you know, computing in the 1990s, like early 1990s. This is where we are at. Maybe a little bit more, like 1998. Let's push it. It's kind of this vibe where if you need access to the documentation, they provide a PDF file. And I was kind of surprised at the beginning because this is the two little icon you're at the top. Your documentation is in the PDF file. I'm like, dude, this is not what I was expecting from the number one Linux distro in DistroWatch, like a PDF file. Why not? Okay, so maybe I'm missing the point here. Maybe it's because it's portable and you don't need internet. But like a Linux distribution without internet is a rough one, but why not? It's just, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. Tell me in the comment below what you think, why they took that direction. But like, there is so many like good documentation out there. I'm talking about the Arch Wiki. I'm talking about like, you know, even like small distro like EndeavourOS. They have like crazy good wiki out there. Like, why a big distro like that big apparently like is providing a PDF? Now let's talk about the point number 3. So the tools I mentioned before, they kind of like make you feel like everything is easier. But what I notice, and this is a common problem with every GUI in every type of application, when there is a counterpart like terminal, like alternative, sometimes you're going to be limited, or sometimes it can be really, really, really confusing. So some of the applications, they kind of have the same like function but different title. So you know, like their functions, they kind of like have crossover within the application, which is a problem. Like, do I need a special GUI to edit my .bash RC, you know, like for editing my alias in the terminal? Because at this point, if I'm already using the terminal, do I need a GUI for that? Like, you know, like all those like applications which kind of like make you like overwhelmed. I guess if you're a beginner, it's just like, wow, like this is cool. We have all this GUI, but is that not too much? This is how I felt when I tried it. And, you know, like if you're a beginner and you jump into that, and I'm like, man, like it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough. So some of the applications, sometimes they feel like more complex than they should be. So I'm gonna give you an example. Like there is one where you can choose and switch compositor. So XFCE has its own compositor. You can switch to another one to have like, I guess, a smoother experience or whatever. And I'm like, okay, you go in this menu and you have so many options and you're like, wow, like it's just overwhelming. And it's like, did we really need that? Like what is the goal? What is the intent of like adding a GUI after a GUI after a GUI? I think too much GUI is just counterproductive. That's just my 2 cents, but that's how I felt about it. Like, let me know in the comments, but it's just hard for me. Like it's just hard. To me, it's a negative. Now let's talk about gaming and content creation. So the first thing I wanted to do was to upgrade the kernel, and I didn't want to go too crazy there. I wanted to get the kernel from the backport repo of Debian, and everything is there. Like you can literally like pinpoint it through a GUI, which was again like a good experience for, I guess, like a new user could be a great experience. However, the way MX Linux package the distro itself, they package it with a lot of driver for the Wi-Fi card. So I'm guessing like they don't want the user to install their Wi-Fi card driver by themselves, so they just package them. The issue with that is that it's going to create some type of incompatibility with the, you know, like most recent kernel. And man, like debugging that, which meant like at the time I had no idea what was going on. When I was installing the kernel, I was like, what is happening? I never had this issue on Debian. Well, it took me some time. And I'm telling you, like for a non-experienced user, it will be almost impossible. This is way too complex to remove those drivers. And honestly, like it shouldn't be packed with it. My guess is like they do that for providing a more like user experience for the laptop, right? Some laptops, they don't even have a RJ45 Ethernet card. So by using this distro, you kind of bypass the issue when it comes to installation, right? Why not? I think, again, like this is a problem of vision and sustainability, because even if you are not a gamer and you want the latest kernel, well, you're going to be in trouble if you don't know what to do. Like you're going to be in deep trouble. So on this one, when it comes to content creation, I do believe you should be able to run everything. It's Debian, so I don't see why it could be a problem. Installing OBS via Flatpak, you should have the latest driver. Installing like DaVinci Resolve wouldn't be a problem, or any type of software really. Content creation, it's okay. When you think about all the other issues related to the distro, like, and you want something really stable, why would you start with a distro like customized this way for production? Me, I would not. Now the latest issue, but also I believe the biggest issue from all of them. I discussed with some member of my community, and they told me that after using MX Linux, when you do a bump into version, like the big version, because they have like version 19, 20, 21, 23, like I think they are the 23 right now. If you do a big bump version, for example, from 21 to 22, you can't upgrade. You just can't. The only way to do it is to back up your data and start fresh and then restore your data. And man, for me, this is just like not happening. Like we are right now in 2024, and it's just incredible to believe that as a Linux user, you have to do that. Like it's just mind-blowing for me. It's one of the first distro that require this type of backup for an upgrade. Like I've been testing a lot of ISO for the desktop environment. I'm not talking about the server, because server, it's kind of like a pre-requirement to not stop your production environment where, you know, like you need to upgrade from one version to another, and it's more scripted, like it's way more complex than that. But like for a desktop, come on guys. Like, can you imagine? So you have been loving MX Linux for like 1 or 2 years, and now it's time to upgrade. Well, guess what? You need to back up everything, and you need to start fresh. For me, it's just a no-go. Like to me, it's just like the last nail in the coffin. Let's word it this way. All right, so how do we conclude this one? So, you know, guys, I could have been way more harsh. It's not a play on word. Okay, but I could have been way more rough on the distro, and I still believe I've been a little bit rough there, but I want to explain why. I want to tell you that MX Linux kind of like grabs the attention of all the newcomers out there which are switching from Windows to Linux. It's a fact. Because of their ranking on DistroWatch, because how popular apparently it is. And this is a big problem. Like it caused me a huge problem, chat. And that's why I wanted to make this video, because I want to tell everybody out there that this is not the Linux experience that most of the Linux users are experimenting. Okay? if you are coming from Windows and you think that this is what it's supposed to be, like MX Linux is supposed to be, you know, the main and most popular distro out there, I'm going to tell you right away, I'm going to stop you right away. It's not the case, okay? There is so much more in Linux right now. You have no idea. So this distro, I believe, will be really great for people who own like an old laptop. That's the only use case I see in which you would really have like, you know, like a good experience on this distro. And I would say not only that, like you have an old laptop and you never want to touch the terminal. That would be the two criteria, right? Like you're in this position when you're like, okay, I have a whole machine. I want something that runs nicely, which has a decent theme, which is like discutable, but I don't want to touch the terminal either. Why not? And you know, like, does it mean that it's representative of all the Linux users out there? I don't know. I really, like, you know, ask myself the question, like, why is it #1 on DistroWatch? Like, I just can't get it out of my head. I just can't get it out. I would not like the user to think that this is what they can expect out of Linux. Honestly, like this will be like the best, worst type of like advertising for Linux. And I want to apologize for, you know, like the developer of MX Linux. I'm not saying you are doing a bad job. I think for your target, your audience, you are doing a great job. The one I mentioned before, the old laptop user with, you know, the non-intent to touch the terminal. I get it. But on the other hand, you have a lot of like users right now want to get rid of Windows. And if they switch on MX Linux with their, you know, 3090 and double screen 1440p, you know, it's going to be a really cold shower. They're going to be like, is this Linux? Like, I'm going back to Windows. Okay, and no offense. Like, this is not what it should be. And this is where I have a problem. You know, if you were a good number 10, I would say, well, you know, it's a niche place. People are enjoying it, and it's fair. And I have nothing to say about it. But now, because you're on the #1 spot there, my perspective is totally different. Because are you really representative of what Linux should be or could be? And to my, personally, I don't think it's the case. So, you know, again, I don't want to go into the debate. Is DistroWatch reliable? Is someone cheating the number? Do we have that many users on MX Linux? Maybe we do. I don't know. From my little analysis there, I've seen a lot of fake review generated by AI with high rating and it's always the same amount of vote, like 15 votes. I just saw it. So, I don't know. Maybe they need to clean up whatever is going on there. Moderate it a little bit. But from my experience here, I would say if you want you know, a fresh, I would say like a start on Linux, just run Linux Mint. Okay, I'm gonna be really clear. Just run Linux Mint. You might have not the theming, you might have a little bit less GUI overall, but you're gonna have just enough. You understand? Like it's gonna be just enough, not too much, not too complicated. Not, it's gonna be just enough. You're gonna have to go sometime through the terminal, and that's okay. You're gonna learn, okay? And you're gonna learn Linux Mint, and that should be the way, in my opinion. That's my 2 cents, okay? I don't understand why you would choose MX Linux over Mint or even over Debian. Like, I don't see it. I just don't see it, chat. I can't wrap my head around it. So, yes, this is it, chat, for this review. I hope I'm not being too rough with the MX Linux team. Again, you done a great job there, like, don't get me wrong. But I do believe that we need to clarify the situation toward the distro itself and what could be the best for the newcomer out there, which is Linux Mint. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I am out. See you in the next one. Don't forget to give a thumbs up. If you think like I'm totally wrong about that, like please let me know in the comment below. Maybe I totally missed the point, which could be the case. And what else should I say? Don't forget to become a member of La Crème de la Crème Club on Patreon or on YouTube if you want to support me financially to continue this crazy adventure. Thanks for all the supporters out there who help me financially through, membership or direct donation. You guys are the best. Stay safe. La Crème de la Crème Club forever. Have a great rest of your day and see you in the next one. Bisous, bisous.